Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VCTV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and today we're going to be talking about transitioning to a sustainable bioeconomy. What is involved? Where are the opportunities? What should you be knowing and paying attention to as an investor, but also as an entrepreneur as well? Well, we brought together a couple investors from around the world who have been investing in the bioeconomy, but also sustainability investments in general as well, to share their thoughts and insights, educate all of us, educate you as well on where, again, those trends, opportunities, and what you need to know to be successful, either investing or building in these industries. And a big quick shout out, thank you for tuning in today. If you're liking what you heard, make sure you click subscribe, share the episode today, and also check out the archive on LATOKEN.com to hear from today's speakers and the entire speakers of the VCTV family. Also, another new feature today. If you have any questions, comments for today's panel or on today's topic, drop them in the comment box on respected social medias that you may be tuning into. I'll do my best to ask them in real time. If not, we're all available 24/7, 365 on social media as well, and would love to continue those conversations with you. And a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day. Again, I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Let's go ahead and jump in and introduce today's guests. So welcome, everybody. And Keith, why don't you kick us off first today with a little introduction and a little background, please?
Hey, great, Kyle. It's great to be back on the show. Hang on just a second. I got a family thing to deal with. Just this very second.
No worries. Let's jump. No worries, and go for it. Frederica, why don't you kick us off as well?
Hello, Kyle. Always a pleasure to be here. I'm a founding partner at Lotus Investment Strategies. We are mainly a crypto investment company, both in primary and secondary markets, but also with interest in other, let's call, trend opportunities like bio, artificial intelligence, and all the trends that you're seeing worldwide.
Wonderful. I'm excited to talk to you a little bit more as we get into today's topic and discussion as to why this is so important for someone like you, focusing on the digital currency space as well, and why transitioning to a more sustainable or bioeconomy matters. So we're going to come back to you on that. And Keith, welcome back. Jumping right in, you know the drill.
Hey, sorry about that. Family first, right? So yeah, it's great to be back. Thank you very much. Great to see the panel here. Fantastic. So Keith Gillard, I've been in venture for more than 20 years, and all on the clean tech side, and a lot of that on the bioeconomy portion, whether you're talking about bioenergy, biomaterials, industrial biotech, or ag biotech. I've done all of that initially with Mitsubishi Corporation, and then as president of BASF Venture Capital, and then a decade running Funds 3 and Fund 4 at Pangea Ventures. In 2020, I formed a new group called Upper Stage Ventures, and we are applying the venture toolkit into lower middle market private equity companies.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Keith. And again, welcome everybody. Tolga, welcome back to the show as well. You know the drill, a little intro, a little background for everyone.
Thank you, Kyle. Thank you for inviting me once again. I started as a designer developer. I worked for companies like Spin Master, Electronic Arts, before starting my own company called Thunderbolt. And my company incubated 12 different startups, raised $8.5 million for multiple different ventures. And eventually I sold my company to an investment company based in Canada. And I became the CEO of that investment company, which became publicly traded at the Canadian Stock Exchange in 2019. And as soon as that exit happened, I took some time off. The pandemic happened. And in the meantime, I joined the team Loop. Loop is right now one of the fastest growing electric vehicle charging networks in North America. And we are helping the world's transition into sustainable energy.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tolga. Gary, you got a little golf clap from Keith there as well. Gary, you know the drill as well. A little intro, little background.
Yeah, it's great to be here. It's great to see our friends. My name is Gary Fowler, and I'm a serial entrepreneur and investor. I've been involved in 17 companies, 2 unicorns, original management team at Click Software, so Salesforce, and also Eva.ai. I'm the CEO, president, and co-founder of GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios, a premier AI and quantum venture studio. We love AI. We curate companies from all over the world. We have companies in Africa, Indonesia, Germany, one from Stanford University, Russia, really, you name it. We look for the best teams that have the best opportunity to become unicorns. And as you know, Kyle, unicorns are mythical creatures. It's kind of interesting. Our job is to make them real.
Absolutely. And you guys are doing a great job of that. All of you are as well. And kind of want to just jump right into today's topic since, again, everyone knows the drill. I mean, transitioning to a sustainable and or, bioeconomy, this is not something that's going to happen very quickly. This is a long-term situation here, and a lot of effort and lift is going to have to go into it. It's going to affect many industries, as each of you have educated me on that as well. And, Keith, I'm going to kick it off with you. What does this all mean? Why is this now the time that this is something that we're all focused on, not only as investors, but also as individuals, and why this matters most to us? So kind of paint this picture of us moving into what you see as a sustainable economy.
Sure. So let's deal with 2 sides here. The first of all is the emotional reality that we all have. We live in this world. We're connected to it. We're influenced by it, and we're negatively impacted by the health effects, and I would say also by the appearance of something that deviates from beauty, and it affects us very emotionally. These are things we want to create a world that we want to live in, that our children will want to live in, and etc., or their children forever. And that really reaches us in a very deep place. We feel that, we want that, let alone the science, right? With some people like me really into the science of it, etc. Some people suspicious of science. Science doesn't care. that reality is there, but the emotional reality is true for all of us. Then there's the economic side, and I think that is one of the bigger drivers right now. Companies are beginning to be aware of the true cost of end of life. There is no longer unlimited real estate for you to dump your unwanted byproducts and end of life things into. We're seeing the carbon that before was just invisible to us. We now know that it is building up in our atmosphere, and we are seeing the effects of that. And so there is an economic cost associated with end of life that previously had just been ignored, or we would be ignorant of it. And as it's now entering into the bottom line of these corporations, they're starting to realize that we really need to do something about this because it's impacting our profitability, which threatens our future.
It's a very, very good point. And I think, with that, I want to come to you, Gary. I mean, anything to add on to Keith's point, maybe in a little bit more detail from what you've seen as well, and then just your general view as to what this transition is going to look like. Again, this is not something that's going to take a few years. This is decades in the making.
I mean, the situation, Kyle, this has been happening for some time. I remember a long time ago when I was taking scuba lessons, and I dove into the river, the Susquehanna River, in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And literally, I saw no life, no fish at all. And so, I mean, this is not an easy process to undo. Think about in my particular area where I grew up, in this little mountain in Pennsylvania, we had a lot of coal mines that had dumped into the Susquehanna River, and the mine acid killed a lot of the fish. So the transition, literally what took place is they started to get fined heavily, and it started to change. So, part of it is about education. I mean, you've got these myths out there that global warming is not real, and yet at the same time, we can see the impact already. As I've said several times, I happen to work on a weather forecasting, long-range weather forecasting company, and I had the pleasure of working with the founder of the meteorology department at Caltech, and also he was 83, 84 when I met him, Irving Crick, but he had been a student of Einstein at Princeton, so that kind of a caliber of person. We were talking in the 90s about the impact that was going to happen. So we see it now. And we also see on a very positive side the kind of impact we can have by not driving our cars so much, and the tuk-tuks and et cetera. Look at the Himalayas. The first time in 30 years you've been able to see them in India. So, and again, it's education. So this whole drive towards a circular economy, the drive, the loops of the world that Tolga has, I remember going down 101 near my office, going towards my office, and going past one of the original Tesla dealers, and people were laughing at Elon Musk. He had Lotuses that he retrofitted with batteries, and they were laughing, but they're not laughing now. So one of it is you need brave souls to go out and really put their dent in the universe. So now, finally, we're at a point where electric vehicles. I know electric bikes from my own standpoint. 5 years ago, when I started to buy them, people said, "Oh, why would you ever want that? If I wanted one of those, I'd have a motorcycle." Now, a huge trend, right? And so education isn't part of it. Seeing the kind of impact. We've got challenges. There are 8 billion people on the planet Earth today, 13.1 billion estimated by the turn of the century. We need to optimize. We need to have better quality water so that, as we go forward, the amount of potable water, drinkable water goes down. We got to come up with ways to be able to get more water to folks. We got to understand that it's not about dumping like we used to do. It's about how we can reuse it and continue to reuse it to keep this planet clean. So it's happening. It is in the stage of transition, but it's just not. It's an ongoing project. But we understand, this one thing about the pandemic is we understand our vulnerabilities now. Before the pandemic, people were like, this is never going to happen. How could we do this? Well, here we got quantum computers and AI, and you can't get a roll of toilet paper, as I've said many times. So,
right. It's one step of many. I mean, you're calling out the right things here. And also a big shout out to all of our viewers out there. We're seeing your comments come in. Hello to everyone. Again, thank you for tuning in and joining us. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in. And Gary, you made a great point, and Tolga, I want to bring this over to you. I mean, as we make this transition from traditional fuels over to a electric or energy-driven economy, what does this transition look like? I mean, this is not going to be simple. And what does it mean for potential investors? What does it mean for startups that are building in and around the EV networks that you guys are laying down, or others as well?
I mean, I want to agree with Keith in terms of the companies realizing what they have been doing, and right now sustainability is becoming, pretty much a moral responsibility for both governments and private organizations, because without sustainable business models or sustainable, products, there's no long-term, benefit for all of us. So this I really wanted to mention this because even in my website, I have it. I think sustainability is a moral responsibility, and it is the only way to become an advanced civilization. I mean, right now, I live in California, and California is basically one of the most developed regions in the world. But still, sustainability is not in the it's not the highest priority here. And hopefully, in the future, I don't know, like you say, 10 years from now, 25 years from now, 50 years from now, I think that sustainability is going to become the world's, most moral, business strategy. I think that's how it's going to turn out eventually. But before, go deep into these, I guess, futuristic ideas, I want to mention about, how, the electric vehicle charging network, what we are working on, and the companies like ours are changing the world. I think, in the past, like 100 years, the oil industry obviously dominated the entire transportation industry in the world. And, one of the main reasons why we had the climate shift happening, and it is definitely happening. A lot of people say, "Oh, it's not happening." It's definitely happening. There are so many big abnormalities in the temperature, or the Arctic. This the ice levels are decreasing. So it's definitely happening, and right now there's a big, change. We are definitely in the verge of a huge shift, and that is happening in the transportation industry. And in the past 100 years, we all relied on the fossil fuels, and which increased the amount of carbon emissions, and that increased the greenhouse effect. And right now we're living in a warmer planet that is causing the entire ecosystem to slowly destroy itself. So what do? We change our habits, and one of the greatest habit that we have, that we established incorrectly in the past 150 years, pretty much since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, is the way that we move things around. We move things around by using fossil fuel energy in the past 200 years, and this has been a very wrong habit. We made a mistake as an entire human civilization, and right now we are changing that habit. So imagine like what kind of transition that we're going to be going through in the next 10 or 20 years. We are going to be working on changing this habit, and this is going to start with changing our cars, changing our entire energy grid, energy system, and how we pretty much share energy, distribute energy, and use energy. So I think we are in the, like I mentioned in the other panels as well, we are going through a huge transition. I think this is the greatest transition that is happening since the beginning of industrial revolution, and we are just in the beginning of it. So I think all startups need to come up with really sustainable business models to be able to align with what's happening in the world. And also in terms of like electric vehicles and EV charging, I urge everybody, like all of my friends, to switch to an electric vehicle. There's no point of purchasing a gas car at this point. I've seen some people going and spending like crazy amount of money still buying a brand new car, or some expensive gasoline car. What's the point? You're going to be losing money at the end of like 5-10 years. You're going to be losing so much money that that car may not be worth anything, because the world is moving into electricity. So anyway, I mean, shortly, we all have a huge responsibility on our shoulders, and everybody has to do something. We are doing as Loop, and I'm going to tell you more about it later.
Wonderful. Thank you. With that, Frederico, I want to come to you. I mean, being in Brazil, looking at South America, going into a transition of a sustainable bioeconomy is highly important, with population density and just all of the activity that happens there. You do a lot of work in Latin America as well, and even here in the United States. What does this transition look like from your on-the-ground perspective, both as an investor and someone who does, cross-border business? Oh, Frederico, I think we might have you on mute there. No stress, but all great points.
I was already pointing. There's so many interesting points. And I wanted to bring another brick into the wall of Toga was saying about moving and the energy of moving stuff. Um, this is one thing, and the other thing that I think it's worth mention is that this is a complex problem, and these and complex problems require complex solution. What we have been is a process, as Gary said, and this is a long-term process. And this process is only going on because all the stakeholders involved in this process are becoming more and more interested. This is something from the people when we start to realize how important it is to save the planet and water or anything. Um, but this is also about organizations. And when you talk about organizations, you need to talk about profit. We are in a capitalism world, so you need to be profitable and you need to understand and see sustainable opportunities as a profitable opportunities, so we can move from, let's call, traditional way of doing things to a sustainable way of doing things. And third, but not least important, is the government. We need governments, and we are actually seeing that happens, that also understand and also uh, put pressure on the other stakeholders, being people or organizations, to make things happen. So, new regulations, um, uh, public expenditure on research, all of that come together to make things possible. So the process is going on, and what I believe, and I think we discussed this a little bit last time, Kyle, is that we have already reached a critical mass. You need a critical mass to make things really move. And this critical mass needs all these three stakeholders. Need people. I want to buy from a company that I know is at least worried about climate change. We need corporations that are investing in making their products in that way, and you need governments to with incentives or regulations that help everything to move in the right directions. And this critical mass is already in place. We see this in several countries, both from the governments or the European Parliament, for instance. We see a lot of companies that already understand how profitable can be, and how you can have bigger margins when you're using and investing in sustainable products. And we have a lot of people worry about reading the labels and all of that. So this makes everything possible. On the other hand, these opportunities are everywhere. They are in electric vehicles, they are in how we create energy, how we move from fossil energies to and carbon based to solar, wind, and etc. And every other part of the system has been changed and is going to be changing. Um, my last 2 cents is that when we need to move things, as Toga said, spending energy, now we can also move a lot of this stuff into the virtual world. With blockchain, with the internet, this has already been a process that puts less pressure and uses less energy to do the same kind of stuff. And I would argue that we're not only moving from a gasoline car to an electric car, but cars themselves are becoming obsolete. I don't need own my car. I can use a public transportation and stuff like that. So when you're moving this energy into the online world by allowing real value, real assets being um, negotiated and traded, and you don't need to buy your gold and put in your own safe, but you can buy your gold in Brazil and and being anywhere in the world, and vice versa, or any kind of precious metals. These kind of changes also are decreasing the expenditure of energy and working towards a more sustainable economy. So um, my point is,
Yep.
this is completely ecosystem. We need to watch everything together, but never forget that this is capitalism. Nothing happens just because it's beautiful, or just because we want to, right?
I feel like Keith may have a comment on that. Keith, anything to add
Well,
to Fred's points?
thank you, Federico.
Yeah.
I think you're feeding into exactly what I said in the beginning. You have to have both sides. It does have to make people feel good. That's where things start, or feel bad, which initiates a change. And then you need the economic side for sure. You know, I gave a talk in Davos just over a year ago on sustainability in the fashion industry. And here we've seen a really interesting move towards embracing a bioeconomy and true sustainability. It's still in its infancy because we still have domination of fast fashion groups like H&M and that they only for PR purposes do they claim to care. Most of the clothing they collect for so-called recycling actually goes into the landfill without really anything in the way of inspection. But there are groups out there, like I worked very closely with Adidas, that's very committed to having 100% recyclability in its products. In the near future, in the next couple of decades, they are working towards that. These are huge problems, and working in biomaterials, but also bioprocesses at end of life. There's so much that can be done there. You know, after billions of years of evolution, nature has stumbled upon, developed all kinds of amazing tricks on how to eat things. And that's the thing here, right? It's evolution that drives these bioprocesses, and that's all about surviving long enough to reproduce. So if you can find the organism and the mechanism that these organisms use to eat any given molecule, process it into something which is more benign or can be eaten by more organisms, you know, that's the essence of this. So end of life for consumer products to date has just been taking up more and more space in landfills, which very quickly become anaerobic as they move, as they have layers piled up on top of them, and they no longer have access to oxygen. Most of the organisms that we think about in the world we live in are aerobic. They need oxygen. But there are a lot of anaerobic organisms that can run their metabolisms without oxygen, that can do this work underneath the surface. A lot of very interesting work going on there. But I think the trick here is not just to break these things down and release more carbon into the atmosphere, but to process end-of-life items into true cradle-to-cradle, beginning of life, virgin molecules that can be used to make new products.
So Keith, all sounds awesome and wonderful. Where do I start looking at from an investor standpoint? How do I even begin, or where do I begin that journey as an investor if I want to invest in this, right? This means something to me. I buy into what you're saying and I want to start investing. Where are those opportunities right now? Where should I be looking?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of work going on within the big companies, whether you're talking about the beginning of the value chain with the chemical, et cetera, companies. But let's just call out one that's specific to bio is DSM, one of the great leaders in fermentation and bioprocesses. Absolutely fantastic group with a really active and brilliant corporate venture group that have taken some really bold steps, invested in some real cutting edge stuff, which has proven out really well. Of course, there are many public companies. I also if you want to talk specific to industries, there are groups like Adidas, Nike also making great efforts here. Of course, you know, we're on the venture and private equity side of things. We're investing into private companies. Those are of course, more difficult to track where to invest and how for people to get involved with these. But there are funds. I would recommend if there are viewers here that want to start tracking this space, probably one of the best ways to do this is to become a limited partner in a fund that is active in this space, one where you get some information rights that give you access to the deal flow, and maybe a call once in a while with one of the partners to find out what is going on in that space. That can be such an effective education. And of course, I'm a bull here. I've been doing this for 20 years. I have a high pooled IRR across those 20 years. So I would say that you're also going to make money. You're going to get paid to get this education as opposed to have to put the money out.
That's a good point. And also, just to give a quick shout out, I just saw this come across my desk as well in terms of a headline. Stoke Space just raised just over $9 million, creating a new breed of reusable upper stage rockets as well. So very, not necessarily a play on upper stage ventures, but a good pun. I'll give it to Keith, but also this idea of reusable. So going into today's discussion about this, sustainable economy, we've got companies like the one I just talked about, again, Stoke Space, who raised 10 million to focus on reusable rockets. This is something that is now atop of people's minds. This is now a focus for businesses. We also just got across the desk that there's a budget electric vehicle selling in China for about $4,500 USD, so just under $5,000 US. That's now starting to outsell Tesla in certain markets throughout China and throughout Asia. This was breaking by BBC, showing again that that model of moving towards a sustainable grid or sustainable economy. And Tolga, talk to us a little bit more about, again, similar to Keith, I want to invest. I want to put money, and our audience, who's tuning in, wants to put money into EV. So outside a loop, where should they be paying attention to in terms of that infrastructure or the opportunities you see or have seen that would make sense? And Keith brought out being an LP, a limited partner in a fund, is a great way to get started. But maybe taking that one step further, where can they start paying attention to?
Keith also actually mentioned about the energy storages. I think there's a huge potential in that market because the way that we transfer energy is extremely important, and it's going to change. But also the way that we're storing energy is changing, because in the past, not in the past, even right now, the energy is stored in refined, like the fossil fuel energy is stored in liquid forms and in refineries or in gas stations in large containers or in physical locations. But right now this is also going to change. We are completely moving to clean energy and electricity, and electricity can be stored in so many different forms, and it doesn't have to be also in a physical location that is right next to I don't know, in the city or something. The way that the energy is being stored is also gonna change after this transition, I believe. But other than this, I mentioned I actually just yesterday I posted on my wall. There's a new report came out regarding a study about how much the EV charging industry, only EV charging, not EVs. EVs are even larger. The only EV charging industry in 2027 is going to be $120 billion industry, and that's 2027 is a conservative time, because 2027 is still and is not going to be I don't think that the adoption of electric vehicles is going to be more than 30% by the year of 2027. So globally, and I think that if we look at 2035 to 2040, when the transition globally is getting completed into electric vehicles, I think at that point the industry size of the electric vehicle charging is going to be $1 trillion industry. And at that point, we are talking about $1 trillion industry and maybe even more. I think the greatest potential is in, like I said, the way that we store energy and the way that we transfer energy. So these two, I think, are extremely valuable. There are many companies, not just Loop. There are so many different, EV charging companies. But at the same time, I mentioned this to you in previous panels. It's not that, coming up with the next, charger or the next electric vehicle car. This is not really, it's not going to change the world. I think what's going to change the world is coming up with sustainable business models, whether it's an electric vehicle or EV charging or EV energy storage, XYZ. It can be anything, but whatever the business is, the model should be sustainable, and that is actually going to make the difference. I think that electric vehicle charging is going to be very hot. It's already hot, but it's going to be like in the next 3, 4, 5 years, this is going to be like people are going to realize, oh wow, this is the new oil industry. Kind of in the same sense. You go back to in the beginning of 20th century, early 1900s. That was the vibe in Wall Street, and if you're in oil industry, you must be rich. It's just that was like the perception of how things were going, because there's so much wealth in energy, and right now it's not going to be the same. Obviously, like I'm not saying that we're all going to be so wealthy. It's not going to be like that, but of course. We are helping the world into moving into the decentralization of this massive wealth that was accumulated by the oil industry. That's going to change. The oil industry, they will probably try to diversify. I was actually just reading about Shell acquiring or installing thousands of chargers in Europe. I don't know how that's going to work out. Like it sounds like a bold move, but it's not that simple. So we will see. But I believe that the electric vehicle charging is extremely important. I think it's a massive industry. I think Loop, what we are doing is you will see more like the way that we are setting this up. We are not just installing chargers. Let's make money. It's not like that. We are thinking about 10 years ahead, and we are thinking about really making this sustainable and we are not worried about the competition, because competition is not it's not our main priority to deal with the competition. Our competition is ourselves. We need to make this the most sustainable and the most beneficial way for everybody.
It's a group effort. It's a team effort. I will say that, and it's a common thread that the four of you have said, but also others have said around this topic of sustainability. This is an everybody problem. This is an everybody effort, and we all have to be in it in our own specific ways, but together in some way, shape, or form as well. And I want to pause this right there for just a moment. We do have a startup that's joined us today to share what they are building in this space as well. So everyone, welcome on Andre. Andre, welcome to VCTV. We've got 4 outstanding investors with us here today. So Keith, Frederick, Tolga, and Gary, who are here ready to hear your pitch. You're going to have 5 minutes and 5 minutes only with a hard cutoff, just to be respectful of everyone's time. After which each of our investors may ask one question or provide some feedback to you. And then we'll connect all of you offline to continue one-on-one conversations. When they do ask any questions, please provide short, quick responses so that they understand, along with our audience, what the answer to the question, but also a little bit more about your project as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and add your presentation here to the stream. And let's go ahead and get started. So Andre, you should be unmuted. Everyone else is ready, and just go ahead and unmute yourself, and the clock starts now. Andre, are you with us there?
Yeah, hello. Was some trouble with sound. Do you see my presentation now?
Yep, we see it. You are on camera, so go ahead, and you've got 5 minutes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Besides, thank you for an opportunity to see a speech. So I thought I was here all the time before. And we are Adrian. We position ourselves as an artificial intelligence platform for the future of agriculture. So if we go deeper into the problem we are solving, there are like three major problems impacting agriculture and its future, how it will look in a couple of years. So the exhaustion and pollution of soil, deforestation on the other side, and then we have intense global warming coming up. And if we go to the United Nations data, that will show you that the arable land per capita is decreasing. So this has two sides. One of them is a growing population, and another one is the soil exhaustion. The picture you see in front of yourself is the same field somewhere in Kherson region in Ukraine. 19 years intensive agriculture. The soil salinity go up, high compaction, no water can be held by the soil anymore, so it becomes sort of a desert, no fertile soil. And then, on the other hand, like 70% of global world soil tilled in the conventional way that will look like this in 20 years. On the other hand, we have a supply chain, which is like 7 units long, and it takes 6 months after you plant an investment into the soil and you get it out, selling the yield in the market. And it's hard for farmer, and the supply chain consumes all the added value, and the farmer gets literally nothing to invest and to stay sustainable. So as you might know, like 90% of European farmers are below zero. So what do we think how we can resolve the problem? With the verified satellite data and flexible inputs from the in-field IoT devices, and then the management documentation of the field, farm, and logistics supply system and all entire supply chain stakeholders, we create quite a transparent virtual environment with an artificial intelligence capability to predict what will happen with the particular farm land plot in the next 5 to 10 years and advise farmer on the investment strategy. So that we started like 2017, and now it looks like this. So that's an artificial intelligence platform running Microsoft Azure, amassing data from the satellites. We use 5 major satellite systems, which are Copernicus, Landsat, Pleiades, SMAP, and 2 more from Japan, the Japanese Space Agency. The database, and then the set of experts who provide advice for the farmers, and then climate experts who provide advice on the future climate changes and the impact to the particular land plot. So here what we have is the market opportunity. We're targeting mostly small, medium farm holders, which are 500 millions if you speak global solution. There are about 2 kilo banks who can provide them with a small microfinancing, like for example, we do now with the Unispoons in Africa, and about 100,000 global suppliers of nutrition who might be interested in the bulk data we have. And in total, 7.5 billion consumers of food who are the population of Earth in 197 countries, not only UN members. So basically, the global market for this kind of data is around 80 billion US with annual growth 40%, but that's a negative projection. So we have also like with the optimistic projection, it's over like 200%, I think. We are following United Nations Sustainable Development Goals topic 2, 2.3, 2.8, and 2.16 for sure. So that's not, I think, important in the morning. So the competition. If you look at the competition side, so I took like the 5 companies, but there are roughly 130 companies operated in the data market, and we are basically different because we are quick. We have a huge AI expertise within our team. Nice background regarding agriculture, and then the building the scalable products. And I think we will win this. That's a roadmap. We are going to achieve next year about 1 million customers, and in 2 years, hopefully by 2023, we'll scale up to 20 million connected farmers, including the unpaying customers in the developing countries. So that's our team: me, Daniel, Sergey, Kate, and Vadim. In total, we have like 70 years of accumulated experience in delivering global AI products, 50 years jointly make an impact. and over 30 scientific publications for now. So the business model comes from the number one, which is an experiment phase now, the soil recultivation. We pick a plant or a plot of the land, recultivate it within 2 years, and the price will go up like 10 by the value of the land. And we basically sell it. Then the other one, the bulk data sales, is providing data for the supply chain stakeholders and says monitoring this for small farm holders. It's the cheapest on the market now. AI services are included, and it's below $1 per hectare annually. Well, that's our track. United States, Malaysia, Colombia, Brazil, Ukraine, Southeast Asia, I think Malaysia and Indonesia. We have 2 investors on board at the moment. The Catapult Accelerator from Norway and the Strata Venture from New York. And now we have also in partnership with the 360 Africa Group together with FAO to run the project in Africa and Uganda. Looking for a seed investment for this particular product of 500 US. We'll go with this up to 200 customers in year 1. I'll modify platform and we'll look for the A series in 2022 H1. So many thanks. That's all I want to say. If you have any question, you're free to ask.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I have a question.
So go ahead, Gary.
I mean, what are your sales? Do you have any revenue today, Andre?
Can you repeat, please?
So Andre, Gary, one moment. Yeah. Andre, you need to close any other windows you have open that has the stream on. Just keep StreamYard open, okay? It sounds like you've got the stream running at the same time.
No, I don't have.
Okay, there we go. We're all good. So Gary, go ahead with your question.
Yeah, I mean, what revenue? Do you have any revenue today?
Do you have any revenue?
Revenue today? This year was 243 United States, but we are not revenue focused at the moment. Our main focus is validation. The thing I spoke regarding the business models.
$243,000 or 243 what?
$243,000. Yeah, we speak dollars here, yeah?
And then I have another question. In terms of your model, are you just using satellites or using sensors in the field?
We are using multiple data inputs, including sensors and IoT devices and drones as well.
Okay, and how do you deploy the sensors in the field?
They're basically physically deployed on the field and connected to the local infrastructure. It could be fiber, or it could be 4G, 3G services. It depends.
Who deploys them?
Normally, we have a partner with a local provider. We do not provide the hardware itself. But basically, we have in the world, like I think, over 50 manufacturers of those kind of equipment. They're all different, and we can be easily adapted to any online service.
Got it. And then in terms of what are you using? Semi-supervised AI, unsupervised AI? What exactly?
I hear you really bad. Are you asking about artificial intelligence? What are you using it
Yes.
for?
Are you using supervised or unsupervised artificial intelligence?
We use at the moment both. So basically, we use for analytic, if you understand me correctly, the convolutional neural network, which does not require to be supervised, as it's based already on processed data, which is already marked up. And the one we are developing in the parallel for additional purposes, we are supervising it constantly all the time.
Okay, thank you. Keith, any questions?
Yeah, so Andre, great initiative, great progress to date. You know, precision ag is a really hot area. There's been a lot of activity here, and we saw the first unicorn in this space a few years ago when Monsanto acquired Climate Corp, of course now part of Bayer. But I did not see them on your competitive matrix. I wonder if you could sort of talk about what you offer that they do not. And then I have one other point I'd like to make, but first I'd like Andre to answer that question.
Okay, question one regarding the Climate Corp in our competitive board. I know those guys really well. And I've mentioned that we have like 130 customers, and there is also a very, very nice startup from DuPont, which are actually also on the same quite high level. Yeah, you know, they're quite huge in the United States. But I choose those one who approaches data with the same approach we do, who also are very keen on AI, and they use a lot of features from artificial intelligence. Like if you look at ELSE, for example, we mentioned them in the competition, or OneSoil. So they're all running on artificial intelligence for like crop classification, then the nutrition and predictions on the soil state. So we are looking now at the competitors more likely in the meaning of the next 5 years.
Okay, thank you. So then the point that I want to make here is around, I have a fear that there is a race to the bottom in this space among precision ag technology providers who cannot provide the full spectrum of products, including NPK and other soil nutrients, seed, and other amendments going into ag. I would advise you to consider positioning yourself as filling in the missing pieces that exist within the Corteva solution or Bayer's Climate Corp or these other big ones, to position yourself as an acquisition target that fills gaps within these big integrated ag giants. Because otherwise you end up providing just a subscription for data, and the majority, the vast majority of the value which is created by your technology is realized by those that are selling the chemicals and selling the seeds, and you won't get a piece of that except your $350 subscription or whatever your dollar amount is, whereas other people are going to realize thousands and millions of dollars. You want to position yourself so that you enable the large group to succeed, and then you become an interesting acquisition target, because in your own, you'll never be able to capture the value they can.
Thank you, Keith. Tolga, any comments, questions, super quick? We're almost out of time, so I want to make sure you get something in, and then Fred, and then we'll wrap up. So Tolga, any questions or quick feedback?
I mean, I don't have questions. I'm not going to lie, I'm not too knowledgeable about this space, but I have in the past worked with Kropin. They were funded by Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They are based in India. I'm not sure if you know them, Andriy. Kropin.com. It's actually one of the biggest agriculture tech companies in India, based in India. I worked with them. I was an advisor to that company. And if you need some sort of introduction, I can actually introduce them to you. Yeah. Very
nice. I would appreciate that.
Thank you, Tolga. Fred, any final questions or thoughts for Andre as well?
I will be quick. I don't have any questions, but my line of reasoning was exactly what Keith mentioned. To not focus only on the data, because right now, for instance, we are actually trying to invest and looking at some business models that integrate, because we lack a lot of initiatives bringing technology and artificial intelligence into the field in the agricultural sector. Primary sector, and with all this together, if you can build a vertical using the data for instance, to financing people in the field, and this can be done using blockchain, and then this is what we are looking right now, when you can use artificial data and data from the field to evaluate what you have over there, and then financing using tokens, and these can be made available to any investor anywhere in the world. So that's more or less what Keith mentioned, but with a little bit of financing and crypto view.
Doing this already in Uganda. Yeah, so we have some traction with financing farmers. But actually, the point is, we are not capable to make it sustainable, because the price for the social impact investment, like that people do to the small farm holders, like for example we do in Uganda, is not enough to cover the cost of remote sensing near real-time survey we use for it, actually. So basically, that one is not profitable, but we have now like 100,000 hectares covered with a constant survey for the farmers, and we are going to expand it this year together with Yunus Funds up to, I think, 500,000 hectares in Uganda and Kenya.
I can tell you it's profitable in Brazil, for instance, but of course, each market has its own peculiarities.
Thank you very much, Fred. Andre, real quick, quick shout out to the audience as to where they can go online to find more out about your company. What's the URL that they can go to?
So pretty much the best way actually is to ask me, because we are now busy with repositioning the company and placing all the new stuff in place. But you can go to our website at agri.tech, or you can go to my Facebook as just Andrei Sevrukov, as I'm here in the chat, or you can go to my LinkedIn, or you can just Google Agri, and you find a lot of topics about what we did in Ukraine, in the United States, in Southeast Asia. I think there was even a topic on geopolitical overview about Agri's activities. But that was without revenue. That was just, like Agri existed for the last 2 years as an NGO only, no profit.
Well, wonderful. Thank you very much. And congratulations on your success and your continued success as well, Andre. Look forward to hearing more as the company develops. Keith, Frederick, Gary, Tolga, we are at time. So unfortunately, won't have much time for closing thoughts. Just a quick shout out where everyone can find you online to continue this conversation again around today's topic, which is this transition we're all moving into around a sustainable and bio economy. So Frederick, kick it off with us. Where can everyone find you online along with your new fund to continue the conversation? Frederick, you are on mute, my friend, but I know that everyone can find you on social media, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn on Frederico Mesquita is this name, or our website, lisglobal.net, lisglobal.net.
Wonderful. Keith.
Great. Follow me on LinkedIn or on Twitter at Keith A. Gillard. My website is very stealthy, but that will be changing soon. It's upperstage.ventures.
Wonderful. Tolga.
Please add me on LinkedIn, Tolga Onuk. My website is tolgaonuk.com, and Loop's website, chargeready.io. We are launching, and it's extremely exciting. Please check chargeready.io.
Wonderful. Thank you. Gary Fowler, close us out.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is a great panel today, and I also like this Shark Tank-like approach. It's really invigorating. So love it. You can reach me, Gary Fowler, on LinkedIn, Twitter. I got shows, and I just wrote an article on cognitive cloud computing in Forbes yesterday. So check it out. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Wonderful. And thank you all very much. And again, thank you to Andre and his company for sharing all that they're doing in this space. Frederico, Keith, Gary, Tolga, again, thank you for sharing your thoughts and insights. To our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard today, make sure you click subscribe, share the episode, and also check out the archive on LATOKEN.com to hear from today's speakers and all of the speakers of the VCTV family as we bring together the best and the brightest from around the world to share their thoughts and insights, an on-the-ground perspective around topics like today and many others as well. A big thank you and shout out to the LATOKEN team, to Maria and Hasmik for making VCTV possible every single day. I'm your host, Kyle Elikant. You can find me along with the entire team, all of our outstanding investors today online, on social media 24/7, 365. You can find me at Kyle Elikant. Do reach out to all of us. We'd love to continue the conversation, but please make sure you add context where you heard us and what you would like to continue the conversation about. We're going to take a short little break here on VCTV, but in just a few minutes, we're going to be bringing together a few more investors, in addition to some of those that you just heard of, to speak on what's happening in the blockchain and digital currency space as a whole right now. Ton of big headlines came out, including Coinbase's S1, a ton of activity in the NFT space, millions of dollars in the last few hours, as a matter of fact, new projects, new fundraisers, and more. We're going to break it down for you and what it means as investors and entrepreneurs. With that, we'll be back here in just a moment. Take care, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.